I finally got a bite, I could feel it was a good fish, and then this happened. It's a completely valid question. If this area is so brutal, why did I cast here? Unfortunately, this wasn't my first or even my fifth option. For 24 hours, I was fighting the weather, sweating blood. Like most anglers, my free time only allows me to get to the water on weekends, and this period happened to coincide with a storm front moving in. But it was exactly that phase when the wind hadn't settled yet, the air pressure wasn't stable, it was just dropping, and there was constant lightning. So this situation was very, very difficult. The surface of the water was bubbling because of the gases rising from the mud. What could possibly be the solution? I racked my brain, but there was one thing I was absolutely sure of. I wasn't going to give up. I believe that you can learn the most from fishing trips like this, not just as an angler, but even as a viewer. So I wish you an enjoyable time. Since I really love old, unique, and special carp, I decided to do this fishing trip at Donkaflek, located in Bixkek. I didn't expect this lake to surprise me so much this time, especially since last year I had a very successful fishing session here. But by now, I should have learned that there's no such thing as a free lunch anywhere. Fishing is incredibly diverse and always holds challenges you'd never expect. I arrived at the waterfront at about 7:30 on Friday after work. As quickly as I could, I got into my boat, and that's when the bad news hit me. Last year, the spots that worked well had a depth of 110-120 cm, but this time, the warm weather arrived early, a lot of water evaporated, and I simply couldn't find any area deeper than 70-80 centimeters. So I had to immediately give up about 90% of the proven spots. I picked out 4 spots, I baited 2 of them on the first night and cast out to the other 2. At this point, I thought I was in for a really action-packed fishing session, so I tied a lot of rigs, and that's how I envisioned the evening. Since the air pressure was dropping rapidly and gases were rising from the silt, I wanted to place both rigs in spots where the bottom was hard. I placed one of them in a passageway between 2 reed beds, because I thought this area is rarely disturbed by gas bubbles and the carp feed here with confidence. My other rig ended up in a 2-3 square meter patch of gravel with reed stumps. The first bite came very quickly from the open water, but it wasn't what I expected. Since the protein and krill boilie got a bite right away, I immediately tied a rig with a 24 amino carbohydrate boilie. Because of the storm, I didn't have time to look for a new spot, so I decided to change my strategy instead. I baited with 3 pieces of carbohydrate boilie and hoped that the next fish passing by wouldn't be a catfish this time. Not long after, my other rod also took off and I managed to catch a beautiful mirror carp. It wasn't quite the size I came for yet, but it still felt great to be holding a carp so soon. Then the first gusts of the storm front arrived, and as I picked up the rod, I could already feel from the weight that I was dealing with a serious fish. But as soon as I caught sight of it, I realized I was facing one of the lake's iconic old residents, a carp whose photo is a true trophy. But the battle wasn't over yet. It didn't give up easily, spinning the boat around and around. Since it came from a spot where the reeds reached the water's surface, I had to concentrate hard to make sure it didn't get tangled up in them or escape. I have meticulously tried every single possible escape route available to me, as I am intimately familiar with this entire area, having spent a considerable amount of time here. A huge storm rolled in, but just before that I got a bite, and I managed to catch a wonderful, beautiful mirror carp weighing 16.5 kilos. After that it pulled again, but I didn't dare go out on the water. But that's not a problem at all. Here's this truly beautiful and magnificent fish, and I'm really truly happy about it. A truly brilliant, remarkably old carp, a magnificent specimen indeed. Wow. Then something happened that I absolutely did not expect. I got through the rest of the night without a single beep. I'm simply unable to just sit and wait in these situations, so I immediately grabbed one of my rods and took it to a spot where I caught fish last year, even if it wasn't exactly a pleasure back then. The water depth was about 70-80 centimeters, but it's important to know that this is an area around the small bridge where the fish are rarely disturbed and they can move through there very nicely. So this is definitely a migration route. We didn't have to wait long for a bite, it came after about 15 minutes. This type of fishing requires a lot of alertness, because as soon as you get a bite, you have to jump into the boat, since at any moment the fish could go under the bridge and then you'll lose it. So here, every second counts. This time I managed to catch it before it slipped between the pillars, but the fight was far from over because the fish living in the Don Carp lakes are incredibly strong. Well, I'll be completely honest with you. Well, it's a brand new day, and I found myself a brand new spot to try my luck. I came back here specifically towards a little bridge, and it's a known fact that the fish usually tend to come around this particular area, making it a promising location for some good fishing. From experience, it's not usually the real giants here, but this time I managed to catch a wonderful mirror carp over 10 kilos. I'm really happy about it. Beautiful fish. Once again, hours passed by, and the bite alarm stayed silent. I started to feel like my situation was hopeless. The air pressure was dropping at such a rate that I had never experienced anything like it by the water, so I decided to start fishing one of my pre-baited spots. It was a stump-filled gravelly stretch, which probably contains quite a lot of natural food to begin with. In 2024, I caught 7 carp over 15 kilos from this area, with the biggest weighing 19.4 kilos. However, this time, I felt that my fishing wouldn't be as strong, but I would have been happy if I could catch at least 1 carp of that size. As for my other rod, I looked for a new spot for it. I paid close attention to not place my marker on a muddy area, so I deliberately looked for a gravelly, sandy, hard bottom. After an hour of searching, I found a spot where the conditions were suitable over an area of about 3 to 4 square meters. And although I wasn't expecting it, after 2 to 3 hours of fishing, I got a bite on the left side gravelly, rooty strip right as the sun was setting. Honestly, I didn't expect it, but luckily I landed a wonderful mirror carp weighing over 10 kilos. I had to wait a really long time for it, and I had to try so many times, but finally it's here. I'm really happy about it. Catches like this become even more valuable at times like these. Thank you for coming. Your mom and dad sent you here. Challenges and difficulties are a part of our lives, and in fact I think it's a very beautiful part of it. Just think about it. If everything just fell into our laps right away, we wouldn't be able to appreciate these things. And I think that would lead to constant unhappiness. Challenges arise in every area of life, not just in fishing. Was it an easy task once you decided to create the world's best bite alarm, and was it a success story from the very beginning? Did everything work out on the first try? And if not, how did you handle it?
No, absolutely not. In fact, we had more problems than good things throughout the whole process. So whatever could go wrong did go wrong. So it leaked, it didn't work, it didn't signal the bite. I could go on and on. The UV degraded it. Just the casing alone, we redesigned it more than 140 times to make sure it closed properly, everything fit, and there was space for all the electronics. We actually made 146 different injection mold versions of it. So we had to redesign it an incredible number of times, and now our design is protected throughout the entire European Union. We're very proud of that. No one else manufactures a bite alarm with this shape and design except us. The other thing is the electronics, the PCB board, which is essentially the heart of the bite alarm. We've redesigned it 11 times already, if I remember correctly, and even now it's not perfect. So it has to be said about the bite alarm, about such a complex product, that it will never truly be finished. And it's so strange to accept that. And that's exactly what's great about it. If you mention a new feature, the guys sit down, code it, and update it, and it will never be finished. It's not like you buy it in a store and 5 years later it's an outdated product. Instead, even 5 years from now, you'll have the latest thing in your pocket, you turn it on, and it will have all the coolest features of the day. So on the other hand, it's actually a really cool thing, and it really grabs people's attention. For example, my personal favorite is that our app works like Strava or the Nike running app. You go out, start running, and launch a run, and from that point on, you don't have to do anything else. So the app automatically tracks where you run, what your average speed was, and so on and so forth. The Vampire app does exactly the same thing. I press start fishing trip, it logs my location when I caught the fish, I can replay the bite, how long I played the fish, weather conditions, and so on and so forth. And these are so useful, and it feels so good to send this to my buddy compared to how I used to send him a message on Messenger saying, hey, I'm at Lake Saloki, I caught this kind of fish. And then he would always ask, but with what? But where did I cast? But I didn't know, and I couldn't answer him fast enough. Now I just send him a link, or he opens the app, scrolls through, sees what my average weight was, the photos are organized there, and I can simply share the whole experience with him. He can even replay the bite for every one of my fish, so it's just amazing. That's what the app is all about. Then there's the bite alarm side of things, which we've equipped with a computer. It's packed with sensors, it measures everything for us. And it's not about having created such a smart device that it replaces the angler, so you don't even have to go out to the lakeside anymore or anything like that. It's simply about making fishing easier and more comfortable. I don't have to manually enter into my phone how many kilos the fish is, where it came from, or anything like that. The device fills it in automatically for me. And it's such a liberating feeling that I'm not glued to my phone all day, but instead I just get to see the results of my fishing. And next time when I go to the same lake, I won't just sit down somewhere at random, but I'll actually have a basis for choosing my spot. The
Vampire Bite Indicator and the Vampire app are made by anglers for anglers. I think the best thing about it is that it's a smart device. I don't have to buy the latest technology every 2 or 3 years, because even 10-15 years from now, the Vampire will still feel like I have a brand new bite indicator. As you can see, there's a dedicated and well-intentioned team behind the indicators and the app, so the sky's the limit. Our main goal is to put something of real value in the hands of anglers, something that helps them experience unforgettable moments and adventures that last a lifetime. I had to wait 12 hours for the next bite. On a lake like Donkaplek, which has a pretty good fish stock, I think that's quite telling. In situations like this, the fish are there, but no matter what you do, you just can't get them to bite. This often shows itself in the fact that carp feed from the bottom for only 10, 20 or 30 minutes out of 24 hours. Here was a perfect example of this, since after 12 hours without a bite, now both of my rods were screaming. And yet there was at least 120-130 meters between my two spots. A few minutes after I landed a large mirror carp, a common carp of similar size was tugging on my hook. This is a perfect example of how perseverance always brings success. I had my phone in my pocket, so in the end, thanks to the insufficient range function, I knew I had to rush to the shore. I think this played a very important role in being able to make contact with this fish as well, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. We're not at the landing net yet. No one really understands fish because I couldn't get any bites all day. Most of the evening also passed without anything happening. A double bite out of nowhere from 2 different spots. Here's the smaller fish, but it's well over 10 kilo too, so I'm really happy. And here's the other fish from the double bite. Well, even if it doesn't quite hit the exact 15 kilogram mark, it's definitely very, very close to that impressive weight. This was a truly beautiful mirror carp, a magnificent specimen. After this exciting catch, these particular fishing spots went completely quiet again for a considerable period, specifically for about 5 or 6 long, silent hours. Despite the prolonged silence and the lack of any further bites, I remained determined and absolutely did not give up on my efforts. I changed my strategy. The previous day, nothing came from the small bridge for 7-8 hours, but I decided, and that's when I decided, to take a rig back there. And what a good decision that was. Not even half an hour passed and I already had a bite. Well, yes, at times like this, when the carp are feeding very cautiously, it often happens that bites only come from areas full of snags. You can see it on my face that I knew very well my line would get snagged in at least 4 or 5 places. And unfortunately, I was right. I was able to move forward about 10 meters to the first such spot. Based on my experience, the best thing you can do in situations like this is to stay calm. This worked again this time.
Indeed, this particular event or occurrence has transpired not just once, but on 3 distinct occasions. This repeated incidence, having manifested itself 3 separate times, underscores a notable pattern or a consistent characteristic of the situation at hand. The fact that it has happened thrice rather than fewer times emphasizes its significance and perhaps its recurring nature within the given context.
Although I didn't catch the giants that Donkaplek is famous for, in this situation I was just really happy to get a bite at all. But of course, it wasn't as simple as catching a fish, putting the rig back in the same spot and immediately getting another bite. A few more hours passed without anything happening, so I had to keep searching. Perseverance is the most important thing in this type of fishing. You have to fish in spots where, unfortunately, there's always a chance you'll lose a fish. That happened to me as well, but I didn't give up, I kept going. And because of that, life gave me a new opportunity. But of course, it wasn't easy to take advantage of it either. The bite was so aggressive that my sinker picked up all sorts of debris from the bottom, so I had to stop and clean it off because I couldn't reel in any further. And the absolute best and most exciting part of this entire experience was still yet to come, unfolding before our very eyes. Actually, I'm literally casting my fishing line backwards, which is quite an unusual and unexpected approach, so it's truly strange and rather perplexing that these particular spots are consistently working and yielding results, especially considering the circumstances. Meanwhile, the expansive open water and the dense verdant reeds on the completely opposite side of this body of water, areas which historically produced a significant and abundant quantity of fish last year, proving to be highly productive, are now almost giving absolutely nothing in terms of catches, which is a stark and puzzling contrast. But here is this wonderful mirror carp, so let me show it to you. All right, let's put it back. I managed to catch this fish from a completely new spot. I found a 110 centimeter deep hole next to a big snag, and this depth was extremely rare in this area, so I just had to fish it. And you know what's really funny? That even after all this, I didn't get any bites from here. Then, from the gravelly snaggy strip, I caught a mirror carp over 12 kilos and a nearly 15-kilo sturgeon. This was the only spot that, even if only every 5-6 hours, at least kept producing bites one after another. But after the sturgeon, I had a feeling that I shouldn't put my rig back there again. Since the people at the number 1 Piep house went home, I went over to the opposite side and dropped my bait into a little dip about 1 meter deep. After that, I had to wait 5 to 6 minutes for a bite once I got there. Well, after the sturgeon, I didn't want to put my rig back in the same spot. I wanted to let that area rest a bit. For me, this meant that there weren't any carp there. And that's why at about 200 meters away, well, maybe not quite that far, more like 170 meters, I found an area that had already worked last year. I checked it out, and the water was really shallow, about a meter deep. I placed the rig right on the edge of some small reeds, and about 10 minutes later, a carp over 15 kilos took the bait. This weekend went by really fast, but there was still plenty of action in that short time. Now I'd like to evaluate and summarize these events. Was my fishing as successful as last year? No. Did I catch a bigger fish than last year? No. Did I catch more fish than last year? Not that either. So then, why did I leave with the same big smile as in 2024? Because even then, I already knew I would come back for a real giant. And I was also sure that, with the things I experienced this time, I would have a much better chance at it. Before I come next time, I'll first take out the vampire up and check all the important information that could potentially influence what will happen on my future trip. I believe that this information isn't just minor details, but actually the very foundation of success by the water. Now let's take a look at this fishing trip from a statistical perspective. Let's compare this fishing trip of mine to my previous adventure at Lake Lupa. It's true that my total weight was a bit lower this time, but my average weight was much higher. As for the number of fish, I caught 12 this time, while at Lupa I caught 14. Actually, as you can see, my trip was 5 hours longer this time, but because of storms, I didn't fish for at least that much time. At Lupa, the air pressure was steady, but this time it kept dropping throughout. I can also check the exact air pressure values for each catch, which will allow me to draw deeper conclusions in the long run. But I've already noticed that if the air pressure jumps around or changes drastically in one direction, that's not very good. But of course, if I later look at what strategy, what spots, what bait presentation, what lure and what leader worked in such a situation, then I'm sure that next time I'll be able to react much more easily and be much more successful. Isn't fishing just beautiful? I was out in nature and I experienced a huge adventure. I got the chance to learn from my mistakes, and with the help of Vampire, I'm definitely going to take advantage of that. I'm really happy that I can share these experiences with my loved ones and friends with just a click. If you want to experience this too, download our app and use it with the Fisherman15 coupon code for a discount.